Day 22, Hunduke reading taken from the Book of Mother of Peace, a memoir by Hak Jahan Moon. Why would God have protected our nation, the Korean people, in that historically difficult and troublesome crisis? The world was just recovering from the World War II, and now it plunged into another tortuous battle on a global scale. The fact that our national anthem includes the words, "May God protect and preserve our nation," points to the answer. It can be explained best in terms of God's providence. To complete the providence in 1943, God sent His only begotten daughter, the woman who could receive God as first love for the first time since the fall of Adam and Eve, to Korea. As do all people, this only begotten daughter had to grow to maturity. She needed time until she could recognize, understand, and accept her responsibility for the salvation of humankind. A child cannot simply go out and lead the providence. That is why God protected the only begotten daughter until she grew to the age when she could know Heavenly Parent's mind, feel Heavenly Parent's heart, and determine with her own will to own Heavenly Parent's mission. God preserved the environment of religious freedom for the sake of the fulfillment of Jesus' final words in the Bible. "Surely I am coming soon." Jesus and the Holy Spirit called and led the only begotten Son and the only begotten daughter to complete the mission of the Messiah as the true parents of humankind. To protect this mission, heaven guided the UN forces to enter the war to defend freedom. The United Nations established its headquarters in New York City at the end of World War II. 70 years have since passed. There are three other major UN offices in Geneva, Vienna, and Nairobi. But even though the world has entered the Asia-Pacific era, there is no major UN office in Asia. I have recommended that the UN open its fifth international office in Korea, specifically in the Demilitarized Zone, DMZ, on the 38th parallel. I am supporting various groups including the Universal Peace Federation and the Citizens Federation for the unification of North and South Korea in their efforts to turn the DMZ into a global peace park. This will bring the issue of Korean reunification to the attention of the world's people as no other action can. All of the nations of Asia would be pleased to serve as the site of a new global UN headquarters. But I believe that Korea has unique qualifications. It houses the international headquarters of the Universal Peace Federation and of the International Association of Parliamentarians for Peace. Spiritually speaking, as a nation in which the true parents were born, Korea has something very deep within its culture that can serve the world. Some 70 years ago, the UN forces shed blood and sweat for the sake of peace in Korea. By ending the division of the peninsula, the UN would complete the mission of those soldiers who gave their lives and inspired peace in the world. In his speech at the United Nations headquarters in New York in 2000, my husband announced our vision of a peace park in the demilitarized zone. 15 years later, in May of 2015, at the UN office in Vienna, Austria, I proposed that a fifth UN office be built there. The President of the Republic of Korea himself proposed to North Korea at the UN that a peace park be built in the DMZ. If North and South Korea invite the UN to build its fifth office in the DMZ, it will, by that very act alone, turn a theater of war, where so many on both sides of the conflict shed their blood, into a mecca of peace. Putting peace into practice. In our peace messages, Father Moon and I advocated that all humanity participate in the cross-cultural marriage blessing. The cross-cultural marriage blessing is by far the best way to restore humanity to become the children of God. Grandparents from enemy nations or religions will unite through the beautiful grandchildren they share in common. That is the ideal, and like all ideals, it takes work to realize. In Korea, one hears there are more and more multicultural families, but their lives do not appear to be getting easier. The person next to him agrees, saying, "Many children are ridiculed by schoolmates because their mother is from another country." Not only that, another person will chime in, It is not uncommon for brides from overseas to give up and return to their native countries. Today, the number of multicultural families is increasing in the Korean countryside as well as in the cities. Looking closer, we can see that these multicultural families generally comprise a Korean husband and a wife from a developing country and their children. It is not easy for women from other countries to settle in a land where the people have a different language and lifestyle. Added to that, more than a few locals look down on multicultural families and even reject them. I understand such problems very well. When my husband and I went to the United States in the early 1970s to carry out our mission, I experienced rejection and a sense of isolation that comes from being part of a minority. If this was the case for me in America, a nation with a heterogeneous population, it must be even worse in Korea, a homogeneous population. Hence, I hope and desire to support these families who have come to settle in Korea and seek to establish happy lives. Since the late 1960s, we have created multicultural families through the marriage blessing ceremony, introducing partners to each other beyond nation, race, and religious background. An upsurge in multicultural families in Korea was especially seen after our international blessing ceremony for 6,500 Korean Japanese couples in 1988, the year the Summer Olympics was held in Seoul. At that time, there were not many Korean women willing to marry men in farming villages, and this was becoming a social problem. For our blessing ceremony, women from Japan and other countries agreed to marry Korean men. Everyone knew this would pose many challenges. The Korean people's sentiment was still strongly anti-Japanese, and many opposed the idea of a Japanese wife or daughter-in-law in Korea. Similarly, in Japan, parents were unhappy with the idea of their daughters or sons marrying someone from Korea, which was less developed economically. However, Japanese and the other unificationist women, understanding faith in God, the concept of filial devotion, and the idea of living for the sake of others, agreed to marry Korean men and devoted themselves to their families. Brides from countries such as Philippines, Vietnam, and Thailand similarly also came to Korea and established international blessed families. There were many beautiful outcomes. The women attended their Korean parents-in-law with sincere devotion and created prosperous families. Even if living conditions were difficult, they faithfully took care of their husband's parents when they were sick and elderly. Some even received government awards for serving their parents-in-law with filial devotion. Some became leaders of women's association or parents group in their villages. Many of these wives and their husbands are now indispensable members of their village communities. My husband and I realized there were ways to assist all women in multicultural families in Korea. Not only our church members, and we established a multicultural welfare center in 2010. The center helps people from foreign countries learn the Korean language and otherwise feel at home in Korean society. Furthermore, we are assisting disabled people and single-parent families. We set up the True Love Peace School in Korea for the children of bicultural families to help them with their studies and language skills. We sometimes hear about Korean celebrities or high-ranking officials whose sons obey the requirement to join the military. That is not the case with multicultural families. In fact, some predict that by 2025, South Korea will have a multicultural army. Children of international and multicultural families often have dual citizenships, and they can opt out of Korean military by choosing their alternative nationality. Notably, more than 4,000 sons of couples who receive an international marriage blessing have fulfilled their honorable national military service in Korea. This is something they can be proud of. Melting Korean prejudice against multicultural families will take time, so we must work hard to see the day that the term multicultural family disappears. Discrimination is implicit in that term. A family is a family. No modifier is needed to describe it. Multicultural should not be used to label a married couple in which the man and woman are of different nationalities. This is not in line with a universal understanding of humankind or with God's will. For more than 30 years, Father Moon and I have been promoting harmony between nationalities, races, and religions through the marriage blessing. Through Korean-Japanese cross-cultural marriage blessing, we have spoken down the barriers between these two nations and their peoples. We have done the same between Germany and France and many other people of former enemy nations. The bride and grooms who have received the marriage blessing are living based on the Word of God and creating beautiful families all over the world. We do not call them the multicultural families, they are simply blessed families. Is no. It seems ironic, but the ultimate goal of religion is to create a world where the religion, in the sense of religion being a repair shop, when all human beings become good people, there will naturally no longer be a need to repair our relationship with God. In the same way, when we become one family under God and a world of true equality and peace appears, the term multicultural family will disappear. The very foundation of that peaceful world are true families and true love. As we have seen, the road to one world has many dimensions. It is a literal road bonding nations together. It is an embrace of enemies who become brothers. It is turning a war zone into a peace garden, and it is the uniting of men and women of diverse races into literal marriages that, that create the world as one family under our heavenly parent. As the mother of peace, I am calling the world's nearly 8 billion people to travel this road together with me. Mother of peace, and God shall wipe away all tears from your eyes. Chapter 7. Today's growing pains brings tomorrow's sunshine. Dedicate your youth to exciting goals. Each new generation endures heartache. Sometimes young people compare themselves to others and lament their status. A desire to give up may pop into their heads, and rather than looking within, they will feel blaming others or the world they live in. The more difficult our situation, however, the more we have to remember our original dream. Especially in our younger years, we face countless temptations, endless concerns, and unbounded desires. The only way to manage these is to have a strong will, and this means having clear, defined objectives. The years of our youth are the best time to dedicate ourselves to exciting goals that make our heart beat faster. Since our youth is brief, it is important to do this without delay. We don't want to be left in regret. We need to set good goals and know who to partner with to achieve them. If we do not live vigorously and create our own path, we will end sinking in despair and envy. Some young people complain that adults tell them to work harder without giving them credit for the effort they are already making. Some become pessimistic, feeling that no matter how hard they try, they can get ahead and the society is at fault. But they need to take an honest look at how much effort they have actually made. Complaint and mistrust will not get us far. Young people need to follow a virtuous path of sacrifice, service, and love. Youth by Samuel Ullman is one of my favorite poems. I like the passage, youth is not a time of life, it is a state of mind. With purpose-driven heart, anyone regardless of age can live the fresh life of passionate youth. In August 1987, Eugene Moon, our eldest son, was president of the World Collegiate Association for Research of Principles, WCARP. In existence since 1966, CARP is a campus organization that promotes principles and raises leaders in that time of ideological confusion on college campuses. Eugene convened the Fourth World CARP Assembly in West Berlin, Germany. In the midst of thousands of pro-communist agitators who were holding demonstrations near the wall, the new CARP was opposed to communism, and that 3,000 young people were attending its annual convention in the city. Groups of them protested and created disturbances outside the convention venue. On the last days of the assembly, Eugene spoke to the audience and then declared, "Let us now march to the Berlin Wall." After a 2-hour march, brave Braving threats and disturbances along the route, they arrived at the wall and encountered a large group of communist sympathizers. Our members claimed that area that was reserved for all our rally, pushing these counter demonstrators away. After an energetic rally, Eugene took the stage, spoke with great passion, and then wept as he led the group in prayer at the wall. They finished by singing the Korean song, Our Cherished Hopes Are for Unity. I feel that members praying and singing together with John and Eugene that day were the seeds of change. 2 years later, the Berlin Wall came down. The fashion of youth transcends borders and breaks down walls. Young people of true passions are those who have the spirit to challenge themselves and the world around them. Many young people today, however, seem to be losing this spirit. Successful cultures train their youth to strengthen and purify their minds and bodies through everything from meditation to marital arts. We should not allow this tradition to become relics or of the past. We should revive them to create schools in which young men and women can strengthen mind and body and discover their true purpose. As my husband and I traveled throughout Korea and the world, we were deeply saddened to see young people buried in a bleak reality, giving up on their dreams and wandering aimlessly without goals. We saw others who were setting lofty goals but could not accomplish them by themselves. Out of concern for this, in 1993, I went on speaking tour to guide Korean students at more than 40 Korean universities. It was a long and challenging tour that took me to virtually all the universities in Korea. In several instances, students of different religious or ideological persuasions opposed my coming and sought to turn me away at the gate, but I persevered, and in the end I spoke at all the universities. On this foundation, my husband and I created the Youth Federation for World Peace, YFWP, in Washington, D.C. in July 1994. With representatives from 160 countries, people young and old, idealistic and full of energy, gathered with a heart to love God, love people, love your country. Everyone felt strong resolve to realize the true families and manifest good values in their lives. After the inauguration, we headed out into the world with the ambition to set up branches in 160 nations within less than a year. The eager responses we got illustrated the burning aspirations of youth. One of the YFWP's signature achievements was to bring together youth from North and South Korea in conferences on the principles of peace as first steps toward the unification of the Korean Peninsula. YFWP's core messages and activities are now blossoming through organizations such as the recently founded International Association of Youth and Students for Peace, IAYSP, Young Clergy Leadership Conference, YCLC, and Youth and Young Adult Ministry, YAYAM. The Generation Peace Academy, GPA, reaches youth in their gap year between high school and college, as does the Special Task Force, STF. These are service and education programs taking place in the United States, Europe, and Oceania. These streams flow into CARP, its ever more active connecting students and professors on college campuses. The goals for all of those programs are to raise up exemplary, loving individuals and families that emphasize purity in love and service to others as an expression of their relationship with God. Keeping one's mind and body healthy, strong and pure is a lifelong task, and its importance is greatest during our youth. When we are young, we stand at a crossroads. We have to decide whether to take the road that satisfies selfish desires or the road toward a great dream. As we begin the stage of life following childhood, we should be beautiful young men and women ready to launch ourselves into the world with the courage that comes from having great dreams. The best training is on the ocean. A small stream ran behind my hometown, the village of Anju, except in the middle of winter, when everything was frozen solid. The trickling sound of running water could always be heard. I became friends with that water and learned many truths from it. Water always flows from above to below. Water embraces everything. It changes its shape to fit whatever contours it meets. In addition, water has duality. It can be peaceful and romantic when still, but if it becomes angry, it can swallow everything in an instant. That's why the sea can be frightening. I really love the sea, as God's deep will can be found within it. My husband also loved the water. Even during our busy schedules, he would find way to visit a river or the sea. We didn't go solely to admire the scenic beauty of it or enjoy a leisurely fishing trip. We rode rough waves to tell the people of the world that humanity's future is found in the sea. In the United States, the waters of the coast of Gloucester, Massachusetts, are famous for tuna fishing. In the 1980s, for weeks on end, my husband and I would board the New Hopes before dawn, go out into the seas that even experienced sailors speared and wrestle with tuna so huge they dwarfed and the adults on board. To catch a 1,000-pound tuna, I went far into the ocean, sometimes suffering all day long from the massive waves and trusting one's body to the deep blue ocean and riding its wave is self mortification like no other. Jew.